If you want to understand where the world is heading in 2026, you first have to recognize something simple. The global economy is balanced on a knife's edge. We're living in a world powered by borrowed time, borrowed growth, borrowed stability, borrowed certainty. And as 2025 ends, one question defines the global mood. Are we heading into a recession or a boom? But the truth is more complicated. Because 2026 is shaping up to be a strange hybrid year. Not a collapse, not a full recovery. Something in between. A fragile boom, strong enough to impress, weak enough to break. A year where markets may rise, but the risks rise even faster. And to understand why that scenario is the most realistic, we need to look beneath the surface of the last 2 years. Because despite inflation, supply shocks, political uncertainty, global conflict, and the highest interest rates in more than a decade, the world economy didn't fall apart. Instead, it adapted in creative, aggressive, and often painful ways. Companies became leaner. Governments intervened strategically. Consumers tightened their spending but continued to move forward, and central banks held their nerve, even as frustration grew. This has created a strange type of stability, a stability built on pressure, on uncertainty, on the hope that nothing major goes wrong. And that is why 2026 carries both enormous opportunity and enormous risk. So let's walk through the world's major economies, the markets, and the forces shaping the upcoming year. Not to predict perfectly, no one can, but to understand the direction the world is most likely heading. America enters 2026 with a split personality. Wages are up, but real purchasing power is still struggling. Unemployment is low, yet corporate debt is at record highs. Tech companies are thriving, while traditional industries feel the squeeze. On Wall Street, optimism is returning, but on Main Street, the pressure never left. This is the environment of the false calm. Inflation appears manageable, but its foundations remain shaky. Housing is still unaffordable. Energy prices are volatile, political uncertainty remains high, and cost of living increases continue to hit the middle class. But here's the twist. Despite all these issues, markets may keep rising. Why? Because US corporations have spent 2 years rebuilding themselves for survival. Automation, AI integration, layoffs, restructuring, relentless cost cutting. These aren't good for workers, but they are good for profit margins, and rising profits push markets up even when the real economy is struggling. This is why the US is likely to contribute to a fragile boom in 2026. Not because life gets easier, but because companies get more efficient. For more than 20 years, China was the world's unstoppable growth engine. But now it faces something it hasn't seen since the 1990s. Slowdown. A real estate crisis. Weak consumer confidence. Youth unemployment. Geopolitical pressure. And a manufacturing sector trying to reinvent itself. Yet China isn't falling apart, it's shifting its strategy, away from real estate toward technology, away from global dependency toward national resilience. AI, robotics, chips, EVs, green tech. These are now China's economic pillars. And while growth will look modest on paper, the internal transformation will be massive. China in 2026 won't be the same China the world grew used to. Slower, but smarter. Less export-driven, more self-reliant. Less dependent, more controlled. And that transformation will quietly reshape global trade. Europe enters 2026 with challenges of its own. Energy remains expensive. Economic growth is sluggish. Germany's industrial base is weakening. France is battling social pressure. Italy is fighting debt, and the EU is struggling to find unity on almost every major issue. But Europe's strength in 2026 won't come from explosive growth. It will come from resilience. Necessity is forcing European companies to innovate. From renewable energy to hydrogen, aerospace, precision technology, and next-gen manufacturing, Europe is building long-term strength, even if the economy moves slowly. So, while Europe probably avoids a recession, growth will feel fragile, cautious, dependent on political stability that may or may not hold. Now let's talk about stock markets, because they're telling a very different story than the headlines. Tech is back, AI is everywhere, and investors are chasing innovation again. But here's what makes 2026 different from any year before. AI isn't just another trend, it's a structural shift. Companies that adopt AI early are doubling productivity. Companies that ignore it are falling behind instantly. This is why markets could rise in 2026 even while parts of the global economy slow down. The winners will win bigger. The losers will fall faster. AI will split companies into two groups: those who adapt and those who disappear. And investors are watching that divide closely. Across the US, Europe, Canada, Australia, and parts of Asia, the housing market is stuck. Prices remain historically high. Interest rates remain painful. Construction is too slow. Supply is too low. But unlike the 2008 era, this time a crash seems unlikely. Why? Because there simply aren't enough homes. Instead, 2026 may bring something worse than a crash. A frozen housing market. Few buyers, few sellers, high prices, low mobility, and an entire generation locked out of home ownership. This won't cause an immediate recession, but it will reshape societies, politics, and consumer spending for years. Energy will define the global economy in 2026 more than almost anything else. Countries want independence. They want domestic production, domestic storage, domestic infrastructure. China is dominating battery technology. The US is strengthening oil and gas while investing heavily in renewables. Europe is racing toward energy independence after years of relying on imports. And in 2026, these energy battles will quietly shape inflation, trade, supply chains, and geopolitical tensions. Conflicts in Eastern Europe and the Middle East continue to disrupt global trade. The US-China rivalry is escalating. Global alliances are shifting. Supply chains are being redesigned for a new world. This won't cause an immediate recession, but it creates a world where stability can disappear overnight. A fragile boom can only survive if nothing major goes wrong, and in 2026, that's far from guaranteed. After looking at the global picture, one scenario stands out as the most likely: a fragile boom, a temporary upswing, a year of growth with hidden instability. Stock markets rise, tech accelerates, AI transforms entire industries. Capital flows back into riskier assets. But beneath the surface, the vulnerabilities remain: high debt, energy volatility, geopolitical tension, housing unaffordability, and political divisions. 2026 will look strong, but it will feel unstable. A boom on top, pressure below, and the sense that something in the global economy is shifting. 2026 won't be the crisis. It will be the calm before the next economic era begins. So, this is the most likely outlook for the global economy in 2026. A year full of opportunities, full of risks, and full of changes that we will only fully understand in the coming years. But in the end, it's not just the analysis that counts. It's also the question, what do you think? Do you believe that 2026 will be a boom, a dangerous lull, or the beginning of a new global downturn?